of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness. Starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there.
Welcome to the Recovery Report Live, Global Pro's deep dive into relevant business and insurance topics, providing actionable takeaways and valuable insights. We aim to update, educate, and inform you weekly. I'm Dan O'Dess, president of Global Pro, where we manage risk to recovery. For more than a decade, we have represented thousands of business and community associations in the placement of insurance and the recovery from over $1 billion in damages. We are your source for insurance news you can use. The Great Recession of 2007 and 2008 was sparked by excessive risk-taking by banks combined with a downturn in the subprime lending market in the United States, which culminated with the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers and an international banking crisis. Until the coronavirus recession, it was the most severe recession since the Great Depression. I'm certainly not a financial expert, but I have studied the impacts of these economic cycles on the construction and insurance market. And I've paid particular close attention to construction-related losses during and after these cycles. A slowdown in the market is usually followed by a slowdown of new starts, a ramp-up, or almost chaotic rush to finish on existing project sites, and in some cases, a shutdown and then a restart of others. This all lends itself to a fury of claims and issues with construction projects. The tough economic times and the construction cycles put considerable pressure on community associations for newly turned over buildings, existing buildings with ongoing projects, and unit owners delinquent on maintenance or cutting corners to get something done or finished. All of this culminates into more and more claims for product defects, workmanship issues, massive delays on projects, and at times extreme value engineering and cost-cutting measures that only protect the interest of contractors or developers, not the unit owners. But a community association can protect itself. It has to weigh its options and consider how it is going to approach these situations. It must, 1, understand the process, do your research, and understand the difference between a 558 lawsuit governed by the Florida statute and a liability or builder's risk insurance claim. A lot of times we see law firms confuse consumers by referring to the lawsuit as a 558 claim. They are different and are handled very differently. Number 2, be mindful of budgets and reserves. Launching into a typical 558 lawsuit is expensive. There are significant upfront costs and rolling expenses that will drain your reserves. Some situations certainly call for this actions, but a lot of this cost can be mitigated if you consider your insurance claim options, both against the responsible parties, contractors, developers, and owners, and even your own insurance, which through subrogation can pursue the litigation against the responsible party on your behalf at no cost out of pocket if they pay your claim first for your damages. Number 3, know your experts. A lot of engineering firms and consultants allege that they are experienced in construction-related claims in 558 lawsuits, but rarely can they distinguish between preparing for a trial and making an insurance claim. We are constantly reviewing engineering reports that improperly report issues or generalize the cause or worse, far overstate the value of damages. In some instances, we've even seen valuations that contain ranges, which leaves everyone scratching their head. Interview them, request CVs, and talk to their references. Ask the right questions. How long did it take? What was the cost? Was it successful? Meaning, did they actually net money? Number 4, insurance defends and pays these claims most often. You have years to file a 558 lawsuit against a contractor or developer. Before you launch into that process, understand that in most cases, insurance pays and defends these cases. If that is the case, then why didn't you make a claim first? I have found that emotions run high and board members are setting false expectations for their fellow unit owners. We understand the desire to attack, but in the fiduciary interest of your unit owners, the far quicker and more cost-effective approach is to first consider your insurance claim options rather than filing an immediate lawsuit. Let the insurance companies fight your battle at their cost. Admittedly, this doesn't work for all issues, and litigation may not be entirely avoidable. However, if you immediately engage in litigation, net of expenses, your association's recovery may not be meaningful. Number 5, be patient. As board members and property managers, we want answers. Our unit owners demand it. But sometimes it does take time to do something right. If you spend the time and energy up front to properly investigate your options and issues, it can save you a lot of time and money in the long run. Even better, your net recovery will be far greater. On the topic of construction, the impact on community associations, I want to bring on our special guest today that is not only a leader and a voice for and in the community association management industry, but has experienced firsthand how associations can truly benefit from Global Pro's construction claims expertise. Marcy Kravit. Marcy Kravit has a big role as the general manager and COO of Broken Sound Master Association. Broken Sound is a massive plant community located in Boca Raton, Florida, which sits on 1,100 acres and includes homes, lakes, country clubs, commercial parcels, apartments, and so many other things. Before taking on this massive plant community, Marcy had served as an on-site manager, held senior positions managing luxury high-rise condo hotels, mixed-use and development startups, overseeing 120 properties, 34,000 units throughout the state of Florida. She is the recipient of numerous awards and is always contributing to various published media outlets. She even has her own column in the Florida Community Association Journal. Florida Community Association Professional is called Cam to Cam. She is the educating and training coordinator for FCAP and assists in improving advanced training materials for those pursuing the Florida Certified Community Association Management Manager designation. It's easy to say that, Marcy, you are a leader. We are so privileged to have you on today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here, and I can't thank you enough for introducing me with that big welcome introduction.
Well, Marcy, you definitely deserve it. And I want to get into some of the questions today with a focus on community association construction-related losses and leadership, because I know that's very important to you. You've experienced the construction process for a community association from literally every angle and at every stage from planning to turnover. You are, I would assume, an expert. You've written on the topic in the past and saw firsthand how Global Pro handles the situation. Considering the tough economic times we are in, I wanted to dive into some important construction issues that face existing and new community associations that are going through turnover and importance of strong leadership. As I just discussed, we're moving through yet another cycle due to the pandemic, which has stressed economic markets. So we can expect some, if not more, of what we saw after the last cycle. But before we go there, tell me about your current role at Broken Sound, because I want to hear all about it. By the numbers, and this is impressive, so I wanted to read this and go through this as to all of our audience understands what the challenges she's facing. 1,100 acres, as I mentioned. There's 111 acres of lakes, 21 of them. There's a 4-mile perimeter wall. There's 5 miles of roadways. There's 3.5 miles of walking paths, 5 fountains, 4 preserves. There's almost 2,000 trees that need to be trimmed annually, over 1,000 lights, guardhouses, main gates. I mean, it just seems like I can go on and on about this. What is your day-to-day like considering the sheer size of this community?
It's been an exciting journey arriving here on the property and getting to know this beautiful, prestigious community. Like everybody else, COVID has affected our day-to-day business. I mean, this is a luxury property. It's a country club community. And we're doing everything we can to maintain the property at the level that the residents have been accustomed to. But with social distancing, it's been very difficult because when it comes to golf, there's only, one cart. Everyone's wearing masks. The restaurant is only providing certain hours of service and curbside. We do continue to provide service to the community and the residents. We're conducting go-to meetings. We have a very hands-on volunteer group here, and we're doing everything we can to continue conducting business virtually and making sure that the residents don't feel that there's any interruption in business.
Admittedly, obviously, the COVID has really changed your role as a property manager. And looking back at your career and looking beyond COVID and the pandemic, what have been some of your greatest challenges and how have you overcome them?
Well, I consider myself a mediator, a facilitator, an educator. And I had a board member call me once, not here, but at another property that I was overseeing on a Sunday, threatening to resign due to a conflict with another board member. And my style is I want to make peace and I want to have harmony amongst my board. I'm very fortunate here that I have a very hands-on board. They're very actively involved and everyone is cohesive. But when it came to this particular board member, I convinced her to stay on and I asked her to please allow me to mediate the situation. There are always challenges in our business on a daily basis. No 2 days are the same. Our work is so unpredictable. I really try to do my best to share the knowledge with others, and writing has been my outlet to help deal with certain challenges that have been given to me and I've been faced with. I had written an article called Dealing with Toxic Individuals That Can Drain the Life Out of You.
How fitting. Yeah, yeah.
I got such a great response from that. And I have to say that we have to have a balance because we are facing so many new challenges and we deal with so many people that are just so upset. Some people have lost their jobs. Every day we're just faced with these new challenges. So what I try to do to have that balance is I take power walks with my husband, Jamie, of 33 years, and my Whippet dog, Party. And I love taking pictures of nature and wildlife. And I tell other managers, they too should, meditate, maintain a healthy lifestyle, make sure that you eat right, listen to music. Most importantly, I have a positive mental attitude. And by listening to TED Talks on my way to work, any type of motivational leadership management audiobooks, I recommend them highly. You have to stop and think before you react because everybody's on edge right now. You have to be a good listener, maintain your composure. And it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, and you can't be reactive. So when you are like that, it only creates a negative environment. So I'm a big proponent of paying it forward. And this is why I continue to share the knowledge. And I write that column because I think it's really important that all of us are in this together and that we share our experiences. And the Florida Community Association Journal has been a great, great resource for our industry. And I just want to say that it's been something that I've been passionate about in educating others. And I really care about the business. And I always say it's better to check your ego at the door.
Absolutely. And I think part of the ego, you mentioned a few great things about leadership, the willingness to listen. And I think that's something a lot of times that I see board members struggle with. They just assume that they already know the answer to it or have done the research, or sitting next to their attorney, they somehow are empowered to bestow on everyone else their knowledge without actually listening to the concerns of unit owners. You talk about quite a few challenges there, and balance in life, which I know at Global Pro we are trying constantly to do. We've done health and fitness initiatives. It's so awesome to hear you doing those things and educating your other leaders on those things, and taking some time away is so important. So what are some of the other challenges facing your communities like yours, and how important is the role of the community association manager in dealing with these challenges right now?
Well, Broken Sound was built about 30 years ago. And as most communities age, they require a lot more attention to the details. And we're seeing a lot more requirements for repairs and replacements and upgrades and those capital improvement projects. So it's very important that associations consider preparations for those upcoming projects and those unforeseen repairs. And those projects require professionals. And those professionals and experts out in the field are able to assist you in the careful planning and the coordination. But most importantly, first and foremost, is budgeting. And budgeting is so important because what I'm seeing is that there are so many things that are coming up now with respect to associations, trying to scrape for the money. And if you don't have adequate reserves, first you must have a reserve study. And there's many issues. If you don't have the ability to fund these projects, then you're going to be faced with special assessments. And COVID has caused so many issues that residents are staying home and they're seeing more of all those little details.
For sure. Can't escape them now. Yeah.
They're saying, I'm paying my maintenance fees and I want this place to look in tip-top shape, 5-star. So it's really important as managers that we educate and we communicate and through email, newsletters, so that residents understand the importance of budgeting properly and understand where their maintenance fees are going.
No, I always, whenever they're around audit season and we're in the first quarter going into the second quarter, and you hear about budgets and the battles within the associations, that's where I tend to see some of the board turnover and people running on different campaigns and stuff like that. So, it's definitely something I'm cognizant of as we're dealing with the associations and the stresses that that budget season puts on them. So in my experience, some of the greatest challenges, and something you mentioned about improvement projects and construction, things like that, for association managers is the planning and execution of those projects. You talked about budgets, for instance. Today, this pandemic and economic fallout compound those issues. What should managers be doing differently now when dealing with contractors hired by community associations and unit owners?
Well, first of all, they should make sure that the contractor is going to be following the CDC guidelines, and they have to make sure that they have proper social distancing, using hand sanitizer, wearing masks, gloves, uniforms that identify who they are when they're on property, and not to have any more than 10 workers in one space. They should really limit the number of their subs as well, and they should be performing temperature checks. And it's important that they cordon off those areas by using dust walls and inform the residents of what's going on, that the contractors are going to be following these guidelines so they feel comfortable. And if they're using a service elevator, they're going to have to take into consideration that it's going to take longer. There's going to be delays because if they have to load materials and equipment on the elevator, they're only going to be able to have 1 or 2 people at a time on the elevator in order to practice the social distancing. And most importantly, have a positive attitude, conveying that message to your staff and making sure that at the end of the day, everything is cleaned up and everybody feels comfortable that they're safe.
And one of the things I was just recently talking with a property manager about is the costs associated with the extra dust walls, with the extra time that it takes. And sometimes I'm reviewing some of the documents from contractors and they're overpricing things because of it. So be cognizant of those things when you're talking about budgets, as you mentioned, that there may be additional costs associated with it, and make sure you plan appropriately for it. So now we're talking about now, but as we get later into the cycle, let's say we are actually getting back to normal, is there anything in particular that you think is going to challenge these associations in planning construction projects later in the cycle as we get back to normal?
Well, I would say that you're going to have to expect delays in getting the supplies and the materials and the equipment that is necessary to carry out these projects. Also, there's going to be permitting delays. Yep. Inspectors, you may not have, some local government employees may not be working, or they may be working from home. There may be shipping delays. Items, materials may become a special order or on a back order. Not having a full staff can really cause delays with some of these construction companies, and associations may be suffering from also a large number of delinquencies and due to job loss.
Very good point. Yep.
Associations may not be generating additional income from those other ancillary services or social events or services because of COVID.
No, very good point. And Marcy, you and I have had an opportunity to work very closely together, and this is where our relationship started. And I learned very quickly about your method and how different it was from a lot of other managers out there, and why yours worked and theirs didn't. But when you had that opportunity to work with us on a recent construction-related loss, what did you like about that process?
Global Pro was a partner in managing a major damage, a major situation where there was major damage to a building, and I mean, together we were successful in identifying that this contractor was in breach of their contract. Not only were they in breach of their contract, but there was extreme negligence that caused millions of dollars of damage in order to restore that building back to its original state. And the association benefited in many ways. Not only our relationship in working with all of your experts that you have, because you're an all-inclusive. Basically, you're unlike any other risk management firm. I mean, you have the full staff of experts in-house, all inclusive, to assist us in evaluating and assessing the damages. And whenever there's any type of loss, you have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to identify what's real and how to go after it. I mean, you paid attention to every single detail, and I documented everything from start to finish. And because of the communication on a daily basis and having those experts actually come to the property and meet with me and go through every single document, we were very successful. So I want to thank you for that, because I would have never been able to recover millions of dollars to restore that building if it wasn't for you.
I really appreciate that, Marcy, and it was a pleasure working with you in that community association, and it was a successful outcome. And it was definitely met with its challenges, and there was some characters involved, but we were able to persevere. We got through it, and it was fantastic. And we're always on our broadcast talking about Global Pro, the difference, and trying to convey to them. And I wanted our audience to hear from you a little bit directly about how that differed from your past experience, like when an attorney was involved or when you tried to deal with the contractor directly. Because I do know a lot of property managers, that's usually a knee-jerk reaction. Go hire the lawyer, or they'll try to reason with the contractor just to take care of it. How did your experience at Global Pro differ from that?
I think the initial meeting with the board members was something that spoke volumes from your company, and the board signed the agreement with they welcomed you with open arms, because there were no upfront costs, there were no legal fees. I mean, Global Pro was motivated to do the right thing, to get the association the money that they deserved to restore that building to its original state. And Global Pro basically got paid based on an agreed percentage of the claim proceeds. And the association received a large insurance settlement from not only the first party claim, but the third party claim. And you didn't stop there. You just kept going to try to get them more.
No, that's exactly. Well, it's not always about what the more, but it's always getting what you're entitled to, and we always want to emphasize that for sure. In that case, quite frankly, there was more, and we certainly made sure that they got every bit of what they're entitled to. We certainly don't want to rest until our insureds are made whole, so they can restore the building, as you noted. So, what were some of the advantages of the process? You mentioned no upfront costs out of pocket. From a property management perspective, what were the advantages for you?
Well, it was a win-win for the association, and you made me look great. I mean, basically, they needed to repaint the entire 32-story building and restore it, and you guided me every step of the way, and you had the tools and the technology, and you used the drones, which were incredible, because through the drones, we were able to view the damage on the exterior of the building, even though the team, we went one by one, balcony by balcony, documenting every single balcony. But with that technology, we were able to get a clear picture of the damages.
So now that you've experienced it, what would be your recommendation to other managers facing construction-related losses, whether it's for an existing building or new ones that are turning over?
Well, construction projects in general are very complex. I mean, they pose so many
challenges. Yeah.
There's so many laws and rules and regulations that have to be followed during the construction process to avoid risk. Unfortunately, there's really no way to completely avoid the risk, even though as a manager, we do our best to hire the professionals. We make sure that we select a licensed, insured, and qualified, contractor. We hire our attorney to negotiate a clear contract. We hire the engineer. We ask the contractor for references. I mean, this is really the best way that you can judge a contractor's experience. And I don't just ask for references. I would say ask for references for the past 12 months or a current job that's in progress. Associations that have worked with them for a second go around, ask for a reference. And also ask for the county, ask to review county records. If you can't, ask your attorney, ask your contractor, have they been named in any lawsuits? I mean, it's really important that you check with the Florida Department of Regulation and Contracting Licensing Board and making sure that they don't have any lawsuits against them or any complaints. I mean, when you call those references, have a list of questions. I have a survey that I've published about, ask the association, what was the quality of the workmanship? Did the contractor stay on budget? Were there a lot of change orders? And if so, why were there change orders? Did they complete the job timely? Were there people on the site supervising the job? I mean, these are questions that you have to be prepared to ask in order to minimize the risk. But from start to finish, it's so important and critical that the managers have in place the written specification and their association attorney involved, and also documentation, maintain that job file. Those weekly meetings that you're conducting, make sure that you have reports and make sure that you hold everyone accountable. And throughout the duration of the project, take photos. The before and after photos are going to save you in the event of a loss.
Absolutely. I mean, all incredible advice, and it's why we have you on. I love talking with you. A lot of times get lost in conversation when we call just to chat about one thing. We end up talking about so many other things. You're definitely not short on information and solid advice that I think so many managers out there could learn from you, Marcy. And we talked about your article and your columns, and so where can guests find out about that column? Because I definitely think it is an absolute resource that anyone tuning in today should go check it out. Where can we learn more about you, Marcy, and where can we read that column that you have?
You can visit www.fcapgroup.com. That's fcapgroup.com. And
Fantastic.
My article is called Cam to Cam.
Cam to Cam. You heard it right there. Thank you, Marcy, so much. Huge thanks to you. All of our attendees that tuned in this week, go online at getglobalpro.com. Check out our website. Click the resource section to read, download important information you need to be prepared. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel to watch today's broadcast. And like us, follow us, and engage us on all social media platforms. We love to connect with our clients and community, so call us anytime at 855-487-7475 or shoot us an email at support@getglobalpro.com. Again, thank you to Marcy and all of our attendees for tuning in this week on the Recovery Report Live.